the publisher of Power of Now, Marc Allen. Continue, please, talking about the wonderful Eckhart.
Thanks. He is wonderful. I couldn't believe it. I got the book sent to me in the summer of 1999, and I'll never forget it. I took it and sat in my office chair, and I started to read just a few sentences and realized I'd never read any book like it in my life. And in a way, it was an answer to a prayer or a dream. I started reading seriously to change my life when I was 21 years old. And I had this image all the time of finding the right book that will somehow say the right thing that would change my life, that would propel me somehow just out of the chair and to say, yes, this is it. Somehow I had that vague subconscious image. And I read a few sentences of The Power of Now, and I had that feeling. And I realized it wasn't even the words that he said. It definitely was that he was able to lead us beyond those words into the state of mind that can understand what he's talking about. And it was that kind of aha for me. And I would read just a few sentences and then have to stop and just be in my presence and reflect on those words. And he would lead me to my presence. And I told Eckhart this. To this day, I haven't been able to read the entire book.
Are you a slow reader, or what's going on there?
I'm a very slow reader for Eckhart. I'm very slow. It took me about 18 months to read up to page 155, when I came to the one sentence, "To offer no resistance to life is to be in a state of grace, ease, and lightness." And I stop there and I say, I've got to just reflect on that.
Marc Allen, the publisher of New World Library, is with Diedre Hall from NBC's Days of Our Lives. And it is Eckhart Tolle reading from his own The Power of Now. We've been listening to his introduction here on the live broadcast and on airamerica.com during the breaks. We are commercial-free for the entire show. Well, from 9 o'clock to 10:30 Eastern, 6 to 7:30. And then we're just going to have open conversation with you about some things in terms of, I want to talk to new listeners, people who have never listened to Air America before, and talk to you about why perhaps you haven't listened, what it is that you're interested in terms of this election cycle, a synthesis or integration between spiritual issues like what we're about, empowerment, personal empowerment issues, and politics. I think a lot of people are not into politics because they find it to be divisive, as Barack Obama says. They find it to be disconcerting and troubling and upsetting and all of that. And I find it quite the opposite. I think that taking political action is an opportunity for people to exercise their clout, to make a difference in the world, and to feel empowered, the very opposite of that. So one person who has made a huge difference in the world is Eckhart Tolle. Now, we were listening to his introduction describing how he had been so depressed at a point in his life when he was 29 years old that he was thinking of ending his life. He then had a huge spiritual breakthrough, running a poll on Ustream, that's USTREAM.TV /Clout, and just asking people if they like this kind of programming on Air America, on Clout, and be happy to report the findings on. Well, maybe I'll report the findings when they come in. We are about to launch into a non-commercial. If you're listening on airamerica.com, you get to hear Eckhart Tolle reading from the first chapter of The Power of Now. That was the introduction. Fascinating guy. Just, I think, really interesting programming. I hope that at the very least, the sound of his voice has allowed you to de-stress from a very hard Monday out in the world, wherever you are. So 85% of the people responding to the poll on Ustream, that's USTREAM.TV /Clout, said that they like this, and 14% no. I want to go now to Diedre Hall. She is sitting right here. And what happens for you when you hear this strange accent and this strange kind of voice cadence? What effect does it have on you?
You know what? I first heard about Eckhart and began with Oprah on her show. I didn't have a lot of experience with what he was all about, and the first time I put on her very first episode, it was on my computer, so I was sitting in my room and not looking at it, just hearing it, and it felt as though somebody had reached out and said, "I'm talking to you because you've been asking the question, and this is your answer." It was. I spent a long time in my life thinking that I wasn't getting it. I wasn't getting it. The depth, the feeling, the reality, whatever was not sweeping over me. And suddenly I thought, oh, that's because I haven't been here. You know, when you would have an emotional experience, when either my son would take his first step or it would be some little victory in the world, that I would think this needs to be really something extraordinary, and I would feel that I wasn't getting it. And I realized that what I was doing was, even if it were David's or Talia's first step, I was thinking, will he hurt himself? Will he trip? Will he fall? Do I have the camera? What is the date? Is it on schedule? I was so busy in my head that I wasn't in the moment on the floor with that step. And that was one of the first lessons that I got from Eckhart, was trying to stay in that moment. I'm wondering if people are hearing this for the first time, hearing his work, because that was so distracting. What was that?
Diedre is here in my studio here in Los Angeles, and my producer Julian just said, Tariq says that the Bible is better. So Tariq, we're going to get to you and your question in just a second. But Diedre, I'd like you to finish, because I think this is really important.
My sense of it is that if you haven't really delved into Eckhart's work, the first introduction sounded a little bit maybe lofty, maybe a little too deep, maybe a little complex. And all I can say is just hang on there, because it goes to a wonderful place, to a life-altering place, and it's well worth the ride. And just relax, stay with us, and we'll take you there.
And how does this relate to politics? How does this relate to the normal Air America programming? As I said before, I think it's impossible to change the outside until we as a community change the inside. In a sense, as above, so below, as outside, so inside. To an extent, I know this is really a horrible thing to say, but we kind of deserve the government that we have, because our consciousness as a nation, as a community, has not evolved past looking at beating people up or killing people or war as a possibility. And so we have elected people who are very much focused on that. Marc Allen, just a minute for a comment from you. What did you think of what Diedre said and the reactions that people have to this kind of information?
Mm-hmm. I enjoyed what Diedre said, and I do think Eckhart's work does deal with external situations as well as internal. In fact, he goes beyond that big divide between the spiritual types and the activists that has been around for years and years. I love what Diedre said. I've found a certain percentage of people that have read the book have sheepishly said to me that they've had problems getting into it. And for many of those people, I've said, try his spoken word audio where he's speaking in a seminar. We've published a few. There's a few on the New World Library site there you can get. They're much more user-friendly in a way and much easier to absorb.
Okay, but we have 10 weeks, and we're going to walk you through the power of now, because I do think once you get it, it's really, really powerful. One call is 866-303-2270. We're going to talk to Tariq about the Bible being better than this and anything else you want to talk about. Richard Greene with Diedre Hall, Marc Allen, Air America. Stay tuned.